Hey everyone, Super Blackbird 64 here, and today we're going to be reacting to what if Godzilla Minus One evolved like Legendary. That in itself is going to be causing for major disasters, if I'm going to be honest. This is from Goji Center. Original video and channel will be in the description down below, and without further ado, let's get into this. Alright, 3, 2, 1, let's go.
What if one of the most destructive and ruthless incarnations of Godzilla somehow got even worse? On this episode of Goji Center, we speculate on what could have happened if we blended universes and the vengeful Godzilla from Minus One took a trek to the Arctic and got charged up in a similar way to its Monsterverse counterpart. Chikshima's nightmare is about to get a whole lot worse.
This is
What
just
if
counting for
Godzilla
disasters.
Minus One evolved? In the 2023 film Godzilla Minus One, we got one of very few looks at the Big G before it became so big. Shown in the opening sequence set in 1945, Godzilla was already regarded as something more than a mere giant animal by the people of Odo Island.
Yep.
Regarded as something uncanny and perhaps supernatural by the people of the area, this earlier state of Godzilla already showed fantastic abilities.
Like
At
40
over
or 50
15
feet.
meters tall, some estimated scaling would put this initial form between 550 and 700 tons. Just to hold itself up at that size, let alone moving and regenerating from the nuclear blast, it did in fact require Godzilla to already be drastically tougher than any
For the first time in a
creature to
long
ever
time, I
exist.
actually
In
felt
other words,
scared.
Shikishima's moment of fear saved his life.
I felt
Most
scared in the
40mm cannons
Godzilla
wouldn't have done a
movie.
damn thing, even with a headshot. Combined with Godzilla choosing not to attack the plane despite clearly seeing our hero and parts of the novelization fleshing out how it thinks, and it becomes very clear this is not a mere giant dinosaur.
Nope.
In Shintoism, the native belief system in Japan and surrounding islands, the boundary between what is natural and supernatural can be a blurry one. Under the right circumstances, places, people, and even animals can become kami, a word that can mean
Kami.
phenomena, spirit, or god, depending on context. This Godzilla
Right.
was already uncanny. The film's director, Takashi Yamazaki, said as much. Considering the natives of Odo Island already knew of this giant beast and revered it as such, they might have been onto something. So for the
Okay.
remainder of this episode, you may find
I didn't
a clip
know
or
I
two
had
of
a-
game footage from our
I didn't know the
sponsor,
movie
War
had a-
Thunder. We wouldn't be
had a
promoting this if
novel.
this game wasn't actually good, but it is. The most
Oh, yeah,
insane
yeah, it is.
representation of
I
the
have this
intensity
game.
of military vehicles, tanks, aircraft, helicopters, and ships. Literally every time we talk about this game, it only gets better. Constantly updated, each game session is an experience you'll never forget. Here you will take control of modern military tech, guided missiles, smoke screens, thermal vision, attack drones, and Godzilla-sized nuclear strikes to devastate the entire map. You can take part in epic multiplayer battles on PC, PlayStation, Xbox,
My uncle's
and
in the-
mobile. So,
my uncle's
now
in the
there's no excuse
military,
to not take part in the
but
best
before he
combat
left,
vehicle
he
game
used
of
to
all
play this
time.
game all the
Storm
time.
warning is here,
Before
ladies
he
and
left,
gents.
I told
This
him
new
I'd
update
start playing
introduces
this,
new
and he said
aircraft,
it's really fun.
Eurofighter Typhoon and
Yeah, it
Rafale,
is.
M44 for ground combat, and tons more.
And now my brother's
Test
in the
these out
Navy.
in the new map Attica.
And
with
he-
this game
my brother
now
also
supporting
has this
fully
game.
realistic shadows, lighting, and reflections to make this almost indistinguishable from real life. Download for free using the link in the description, and if you haven't played yet or haven't played for more than 6 months, you'll get
I've been playing
100,000
for the past
in-game
2
currency,
years.
a special decorator eagle of valor, and more. Yeah, we know most of you are watching on a phone. Yeah, we see you, dude. Yes, you can play now.
I'm watching
dude.
this on a PS5.
Fast forwarding in time, this Godzilla found itself caught in the blast of Operation Crossroads Baker Test. Withstanding the 23 kiloton explosion and radiation, Godzilla's regenerative ability went into overdrive trying to stabilize it. It is here where the film's novelization makes it clear that the resting giant was filled
I
with
didn't
a
know there was
terrible
a novel
resolve
of
once
this.
it deduced humans were the cause of this. Now, less animal and more a living curse. Things take a slightly different turn when the now 50.1 meter tall Leviathan turns northward. Maybe the vengeful Kami had sensed something in the Northern Ocean that could help with its pains. Something across the Arctic Ocean under the ice caps that would help it get its revenge. Now, in our scenario, the only element from the Monsterverse is the energy stockpile under White Island we saw in the New Empire. So
Right.
Minus won't have to square off in a David and Goliath battle with any titans like Tiamat. Taking longer than his
I think he
Monsterverse
would
counterpart,
lose.
Godzilla would still soak up nature's bounty of energy to
I'm not
turn
saying he's
it
weak or
loose on
anything. I'm just saying
mankind,
he would probably lose
becoming
against Tiamat.
This.
But that's just
Now,
me.
this hypothetical new state wouldn't look exactly like the evolved Godzilla we know and love, as Godzilla's
Probably
new
not.
look to square up with Scar King's forces was partially an adaptation of copying DNA from Tiamat and further juicing up from a modern nuclear facility.
Yeah.
Still, the effect would be noticeable all the same. New spines, longer limbs, and a somewhat slimmed down build, and far more destructive potential.
Mm-hmm. He would get a lot
-1's
more bigger
infamous
than he
blast
was
of a breath
before.
attack would take on terrifying new traits too, but we'll get back to that in a minute. And this new look also comes with a few new devastating perks, ones that would carve a path of devastation across the Pacific at
Instead
an
of
even
a
faster
long-run
rate
body,
than it
would
had
he,
in the
like,
movie.
be able to move faster?
This turbocharged Godzilla would relentlessly destroy anything it so much as got an indication of. Tellingly, there would be no warning when these attacks happened until the path of wreckage was found. No radio calls,
I bet his
no
recharge
distress
time from
signals,
blast
and
to
nothing
blast
but
would
claw
take
marks
less
and burned slag
time.
left behind of whole warships.
So you could just
And
keep
with it
firing,
attacking both sides with
you know?
wild abandon and
Like,
leaving no survivors, both superpowers might
not like
mistake
that, but you get
Godzilla's
what I mean,
actions
right?
for those of the other side. World War III might risk breaking out over this rampage, with multiple nations hunting the culprit and each other. With the
Pretty
sheer
much.
number of sea mines still left over from the last war, Shikishima and company would have plenty of work to do. This means the infamous boat attack probably happened more or less the same way it did before, only now with a faster, turbocharged Godzilla
Oh, yeah.
on the hunt. If they survive with a timely intervention of the
If
Takao
they
or
survive.
other ships engaging the monster, Dr. Kenji Noda might notice something when an ominous pink glow appears underwater. A lot of the communication equipment and more advanced electronics would be going haywire. There's a destructive new trait to one of the most destructive atomic breaths ever.
Like what?
Now, to clear up a bit of a misconception circulating the internet. Because if it's on the net, it must be true. Different types of radiation, like high-energy gamma rays, don't actually have a color. Color is just a spectrum of light we're able to see, and most high-energy radiation is way outside that spectrum.
Yeah.
All colors are a mixture of the two opposite sides of the spectrum. Blues at the highest energy and
Okay.
reds at the lowest. Pink is the exception. Pink-colored energy is what your brain perceives when it can't figure out what has a higher energy than blue and a lower energy than red. It's
did not know
almost
that.
like your eyes are glitching. What does this mean in the case where too
Well,
much
it's the usual
pink energy
procedure.
is dangerous? It means a whole spectrum of electromagnetic energy and charged particles is being fired out every time. Not just with much more heat and potentially explosive force that ignites the matter around the beam, but there are also now massive EMP blasts every time Evolved -1 fires. In a
Dang.
modern setting, this would make the Evolved -1 borderline impossible to fight
But this is back in
effectively.
the 50s.
Because every time it uses its breath or exerts
Yeah.
its might, it could permanently
But in
knock
the
out
modern
the whole
area?
power grid for miles. Radio and other important frequencies
he would
get
be kinda
scrambled
like a
just
living
from being
Muto.
nearby,
Just
and most advanced technology wouldn't work. The attack in Ginza would probably result in huge amounts of Japan losing power and a lot of communication equipment being made inoperable.
Yeah.
It doesn't just turn off some types of technology, it fries it. The world's governments wouldn't stand a chance ignoring all of that. The setting being in the 1940s might be the only saving grace for the heroes faced with this kind of menace. More complex electrical transistors and grids were less common back then, and vacuum tube technology that is antique by the modern standards would hold up against EMPs a lot better. Operation Watatsumi might have to go from a desperate struggle by a small group into a national effort to use the one plan that might work to stop this nightmare. And as the movie showed, there's no guarantee it would succeed.
No.
Killing a vengeful force of nature is not simple.
Dang. Oh. Dang, that's terrifying. That's glad that doesn't happen. But it would be really cool to see -1 come back. I did hear that they're making another movie. I don't know if it's going to be a sequel. Maybe it is. Or isn't. I don't know. But I did hear that the people who made minus one are coming back for this one. So is it a sequel? I'm not sure. Don't take me up on that. But I'm just very excited about all this. So yeah, and that just is terrifying. Like not just Japan, but the entire world. He would just be kind of like the Indominus, just going on a killing spree. Holy shit, man. So I have nothing else left to say, and I'll see you in the next one. Alright, peace.